next story is about Europe. The European Union has issued an ultimatum of sorts to the US, UK and Turkiye. Arms companies from all these countries will be excluded from a new $165 billion EU defense funding initiative unless their home countries sign defense and security agreements with Brussels. Yes, you heard that right. The EU aims to reduce its security dependency on America in its pursuit of a Buy European initiative. On Wednesday, the planned fund for capitals to spend on weapons would only be open to EU defense companies and those from third countries that have signed defense agreements with the bloc. According to a European Commission proposal put forward, it would also exclude any advanced weapon systems upon which a third country had design authority written on it. Restrictions on its construction or use of particular components or control over its eventual use, that would exclude the US Patriot air and missile defense platform, which is manufactured by defense contractor RTX, and other US weapon systems where Washington has restrictions on where they can be used. Now, this comes at a time when Europe is strengthening its defense amid a perceived threat from Russia and doubts about future US protection. Remember, last month, the Trump administration signaled that US security prioritizes lay elsewhere and that its own borders and in Asia, the Trump administration has made it very clear that Europeans need to fend for itself and Ukraine in the future. That as Europe's biggest war since World War II entered its fourth year in Ukraine. Now, under a new strategy, EU member countries will be urged to buy much of their weapons in Europe and work mostly with European suppliers. And in some cases, with EU to help cut prices and speed up orders. They should only buy equipment from abroad when costs, performance or supply delays make it preferable. Now, this policy is a victory for France as well as other countries in Europe that have demanded a Buy European approach to the continent's defense investment push. This amid fears over the long-term dependability or reliance of the US as a defense partner and supplier triggered by Trump. Now, at least 65% of the cost of the goods would need to be spent in the EU, Norway and Ukraine. The remaining could be spent on goods from third countries that have signed a security pact. The EU's chief diplomat, Kaja Kallas, said, and I quote here, "We have this opportunity to really build up the European defense industry. In crisis, your military really needs to have free hands." Now, the UK has lobbied her to be included in this initiative, especially given its key role in a European coalition of the willing, which is aimed at strengthening Europe's defense capabilities. UK defense companies, including BAE Systems and Babcock International, are deeply integrated into the defense industry of EU, such as Italy and Sweden. If third countries such as the UK, US and Turkiye want to participate in this initiative, they would now need to sign a defense and security partnership with the EU. As per reports, talks between London and Brussels on such a pact have begun, but have become embroiled in demands for a larger EU-UK agreement that would also include controversial issues such as fishing rights and migration. But as far as the exclusion of the UK and Turkey is concerned, it will create big headaches for big European defense companies that have close ties to the suppliers. In those markets, the move is also expected to cause major worry for UK's defense sector. One senior UK defense industry insider said it was a major concern. Clearly, it's not the joint and unified Europe, at least as far as Europe and Britain is concerned. Is China preparing for a war in space? Do we have to prepare for an off-planet conflict next? We ask this because of a claim made by a top US Space Force official. General Michelle Gutland, the Vice Chief of Space Operations, told a conference in Washington that China has been observed conducting coordinated maneuvers with its satellites, describing it as dogfighting in space. To put it simply, he says that Chinese satellites are practicing combat in space. According to him, if this is indeed the case, then China's capability gap with the US has just narrowed. And what does that mean for the future of space dominance? According to General Gutland, the US Space Force has identified 5 different objects in space maneuvering in and around each other with astonishing synchronicity and control. He said, and I'm quoting him, "That's what we call dogfighting in space. They are practicing tactics, techniques and procedures to conduct on-orbit operations from one satellite to another," unquote. While the top US general did not name the actors involved in these maneuvers, it was later confirmed that the satellites in question were indeed Chinese, specifically 3 Xi'an 240 experimental satellites and 2 Shijian 605A-B experimental space objects. They reportedly carried out a series of proximity operations in lower Earth orbit. In 2024, General Gutland had said that the Chinese Shijian 605 group, launched in 2021, is meant to detect the space environment and test new technologies. Meanwhile, the Xi'an 24C satellite, launched 2 years later, focused on space science and technology experiments. Now, the next question that comes to mind is, what could be the agenda behind these advanced operations? Remember, a dogfight typically involves fighter jets engaged in tight aerial combat, executing intricate maneuvers. But in space, which is a vacuum, movement means something radically different. The absence of atmosphere and friction means that spacecraft must expel mass to create thrust to make swift movements. And to achieve such a capability is incredibly costly and challenging. And so, if China has been able to achieve this, it would be a big feat. This is also the first time that multiple Chinese satellites have reportedly been observed carrying out synchronized movements. Yes, China has carried out many rendezvous proximity operations, where spacecraft move closer to each other and interact in space. There have also been reports of Chinese satellites approaching and also stalking American space assets. It begs the question, have we underestimated China's ambition in space? What is really happening behind these seemingly harmless activities? It's hard to know at this point of time. What is certain is that, according to US Space Force, China and Russia are rapidly closing the gap and ending and also rather endangering US space superiority. General Gutland referred an example from 2019 when a Russian satellite released a smaller spacecraft to allegedly spy on an American probe. He further enlisted other growing threats to US space platforms, including satellites equipped with robotic arms capable of capturing or holding another satellite hostage. Well, these abilities that Chinese vehicles have demonstrated on multiple occasions. If these claims are indeed true, how long until we face direct confrontation in the stars? In the age of space as a frontier for exploration transforming into one of tactical warfare, we don't have the answers to these questions right now. What we do know is that the stakes have never been higher. One war front to another. Our next story brings you the latest from the deadly Israeli military offensive on Gaza, in which the IDF has unleashed relentless airstrikes and expanded ground operations, leaving a trail of devastation in their wake. The fragile calm that had settled under a temporary truce has now been shattered, replaced by the deafening sounds of bombings and the cries of the wounded. According to Gaza's health ministry, at least 500 Palestinians have been killed in the past 3 days, just 3 days in Gaza. Rescue workers in Khan Yunis reported that a pre-dawn strike claimed the lives of at least 10 people, including families who had sought refuge in what they believed to be a safe area.
At approximately 2:30 a.m., the brutal Israeli strike on this house took place. Some 7 people were sleeping in it, safe and sound, according to what the Israeli army had classified as a safe area. This area was a displacement area some time ago. Of course, they were all martyred, as you know. We took them out in pieces.
On the ground, Israeli troops have pushed deeper into central and southern Gaza with an aim of establishing what it claims a security buffer. Earlier today, the IDF reportedly regained control of the 4-kilometer-wide Netzarim corridor. It's a key corridor that, in effect, separates northern Gaza from the south. Israel's operations, meanwhile, have forced thousands of Palestinians to flee for their lives. Roads leading out of northern Gaza are now filled with desperate families, all trying to escape the relentless assault carried out by Israel.
We are suffering from displacement. It hasn't been 2 months since we went back, living in a tent in Al Salam neighborhood. Now we are displaced again.
But for many Palestinians, even escape has become impossible. Earlier today, Israeli forces blocked Gaza's main north to south road, effectively trapping thousands of Gazans in a war zone. In a post on X, Israeli army spokesperson Aveche Adrai said that for safety reasons, movement on Gaza's Salah al-Din road is now completely prohibited. Now, the 45-kilometer stretch is Gaza's most important road, spanning the entire length of the territory from north to south. So the message from IDF seems to be clear: there is no safe place in Gaza. In a video address, Israel's defense minister, Israel Katz, issued what he called, and I'm quoting here, final warning for the return of hostages and the removal of Hamas.
The advice of the US President Donald Trump: return the hostages and get rid of Hamas, and will open new opportunities, including leaving to other places in the world for whoever wants to. The alternative is complete destruction and devastation.
Hamas, meanwhile, said that the Israeli army's ground operation constitutes a serious violation of the ceasefire agreement, adding that it rejects Israel's demand to revise the existing ceasefire terms. That's what Hamas has clearly said. In the latest, Hamas has fired multiple rockets at Tel Aviv. In the latest escalation of violence, Israeli military confirmed that 3 long-range rockets were launched from the southern Gaza Strip at central Israel. According to the IDF, one of the rockets was intercepted by air defenses, while the other 2 struck open areas. There are no immediate reports of injuries in the attack. The Al-Qassam brigades, the military wing of Hamas, claimed the responsibility for the attack, saying it bombed Tel Aviv with a barrage of M90 rockets in response to massacres against civilians. Well, thousands of demonstrators flooded the streets of Jerusalem, demanding an end to the bombings, aiming their frustration directly at the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, whom they accused of prioritizing military escalation over the safe return of the hostages.
We're very, very worried that our country is becoming a dictatorship, and we think our government is not serving the people of Israel and is not thinking of the important things that have to happen here. And they've kidnapped our country. They're abandoning our hostages. They're neglecting all the important things for this country.
Before this latest escalation, the death toll in Gaza had already surpassed 48,000. Now, with the renewed assault, that number is rising by the hour. The question we ask: how much more destruction will Gaza endure?